Welcome, guys, to another episode of Know Your Worth TV. Some of you guys may know this man as Andre the Farmer on all social media platforms, but I actually was able to meet him as Dr. Baptiste. And we really want to just know the story on how he got to where he's at today. I think it's a phenomenal story because, again, I met him when he was just doing the dental thing, right? And he would just come in, very quiet guy. But one day I'm just kind of scrolling through social media on Facebook, and I happened to tap into Andre the Farmer. And I'm like, nah, this can't be the same guy. So it happens to be the same guy. So I really want to know how he was able to build another business on top of already having three locations when it comes to the orthodontist. So Dr. Baptiste, how you doing today, man?
I am doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me here.
I mean, I don't even know how we got the time to do this. You seem like a busy individual. You're doing so many different things. And social media, was that a thing that you've always enjoyed? How did you tap into social media?
Well, it's kind of a weird story because I have a friend who I play basketball with, and we went to a basketball game with him and his wife and my wife, and she had a garden, and she told me how she has Instagram, and someone sent her free boots because she had a decent following on
Yeah.
Instagram. And basically, my thing was like, hey, I've got a garden. My garden's like way bigger. I should get some free boots too. So, I said, all right, let me start an Instagram page. And I was coming up with all these goofy names for it. And I kind of settled on Andre the Farmer eventually. And I had a patient who came in, and she was telling me how TikTok is really the way to grow your social media. And I was like, TikTok, it's just a bunch of kids dancing and nonsense, right? But what I've learned so far is that TikTok is the most informational social media that exists. Like, you can learn anything you want on TikTok. So I started a
I agree.
TikTok page, and I made a few videos, and a couple of them went viral. And the next thing you know, I had 100,000 followers, and then from there it became, I don't want to call it a job, but it became something that I pay a lot of attention to. We did start a spin-off business off of that called Permaculture Life. So it has become sort of a second job or a second career for me. But it's definitely doesn't pay the bills at this point in time.
Not yet, at least, right? It's something that we're working towards. Uh, I do have a question though. Were you on social media at all? Like, did you know anything about social media before actually blowing up on TikTok?
I had Facebook, like the old people social media.
Not the
And
old people. Stop making me feel like
I think
that.
I might have, I'm not sure. I might have had Instagram, but I definitely didn't have a TikTok at all.
Wow. So what was your thought when you start to see these numbers just going up and up and up just by a couple of the posts that you were doing?
Um, I don't know. It was like, it was just, I don't know, it was crazy for me because my son had been TikTok famous. Like, my son had 160,000 followers at one point, kind of early on in TikTok, which when that was actually a lot of followers back then. So I was just sort of getting advice from him, and I was saying, and I kept on teasing him that one day I'll catch up to you. I'll have as many followers as you, and now I got like over 600,000 followers on there, and it's just kind of almost surreal because it's just
Yeah.
not something that I expected. But it's changed me, and I think it's changed me for the better because it's definitely improved sort of my ability to get in front of the camera, or my ability to speak to crowds, or things like that. It's definitely helped with those things.
Did you find it a challenge at first creating the content?
Yes, yeah. You know, at first it was difficult because I thought I had to be like super, creative or super original, but people just want to see real stuff. So, I think that's sort of what is drives some of my success is that all my videos are just done on my phone. I don't have an editor, I don't have a producer, I don't have anybody. It's just me. Most of them are just like straight through videos. I barely know how to work the app, so it's like
Wow. No,
they're all
that's good
pretty
to
raw videos.
listen. That's good that you say that. So many people want to get on social media and they have that fear of, well, I don't have the latest iPhone, or I don't have this and I don't have the other. But you're just saying, I'm taking my phone. What iPhone do you have right now? Do you know?
I don't even know. It
So
might be a 10.
iPhone 10, 15 just came out. So right. People think they need the iPhone 15. So I got the iPhone 10. I'm creating content, and you've been able to blow up on TikTok just by being yourself, authentic, right? People think you have to be somebody else. Be yourself. For those that are listening, this gentleman has created a whole TikTok, a business around this as well, where he was just being authentic, just picked up a camera and just wanted to share some information. Now, we were able to talk at some point, and you told me that you did not know anything really about planting, gardening, farming. You just learn in the process. Is that correct? Was it something that you were researching, or you were just learning as you went?
Pretty much, I have a philosophy, and it's a little different than a lot of people's gardening philosophy. My philosophy is get it in the ground. You know, a lot of times people will tell me, oh, they're going to start a garden and they're planning and they're deciding this and deciding this. Buy something, stick in the ground, right? Because the sooner you get time behind you, the sooner you're going to get rewards. So put it in the ground, learn about it afterwards, right? So my thing is, I started by planting a mango tree. I didn't know anything about a mango tree. I couldn't have picked a mango tree out of a lineup, but the guy at the store told me it's a mango tree, so I planted it, right? And then I learned as I went along, you know. So while I was learning, I've got a year or 2 years of a mango tree already in the ground. So I've got rewards coming as I'm learning,
Yeah.
right? So, you know, I started gardening about 7 years ago, and like I said, I was a clean slate. I knew nothing.
How long has it been that you already been on TikTok? So 7 years, you started your first mango tree. How long have you now been on social media?
I would say probably 2.5 years, maybe.
How long did it take you to blow up the TikTok?
I would say within about 6 months, something was happening. You know, we had a video. I think within the first 6 months, we had some videos that, you know, we're getting like in the hundreds of thousands of views, and
Yeah.
you know, maybe what come when it was 1 million views or something like that. You know,
How long in the process did you decide, you know what, let's turn this into a business? I got something here.
when I was around 100 and maybe 50,000 followers, I was like, you know what? Um, hey, why not create a brand around what I'm doing? You know, and what I was doing was basically gardening and doing what's called permaculture, which is sort of sustainable gardening, within sort of with nature instead of sort of working against nature. So I created the brand Permaculture Life. Like the shirt I'm wearing now, this shirt's made from hemp. So
Nice.
most of our products are made from hemp, bamboo, or recycled materials.
And are you big on doing that for a reason? Going into the hemp and the bamboo type of
Right, because
merchandise?
those products are more sustainable than a lot of the other products that are used to make clothes. Like even cotton. Cotton's not terrible, but cotton requires a lot of farmland and a lot of water and resources to create cotton. Whereas bamboo and hemp, they can be produced with much less environmental impact than the other products.
Nice, man. This is crazy. So what does the business now do? This new business that you have, what exactly can someone get if they're researching your business or wanting to go to the website? What is it that your business does now?
Well, we have mostly um, the sustainably sourced apparel. We also have seeds, and we have like teas and things like that. But all the seeds and all the teas or any sort of food product, or like a organic product, it's coming from my garden. So the seeds we have are
No
seasonal,
way.
and they'll just be like seeds depending on the time of year that it is. So if it's a time of year where something's producing seeds, that's what'll be on the website. In terms of leaves, like mango leaves, people make tea from the mango leaves because they're really what's the word I'm looking for? They're really good for you. They're beneficial. They have a lot of benefits. So I do dry the mango leaves. We package them and we ship them across the country.
That is crazy. So it's something that you just started out of just having fun, not understanding which one was a mango tree, but now you've created a big business. Are you running this business now by yourself, or is there a team now? How big
I
has
have
this
a little
grown?
bit of a team. I have a little bit of a team. I have three people that are part of this team. One is my office manager at the office from work. Another one's a good friend of mine, and then another one is another friend of mine who's actually big into gardening. I always say, like he is the real life version of me. Like like I play a gardener on social media sort of thing, and I grow stuff and I produce stuff, but not on the scale of like a real professional farmer. But this guy, Dave, who's part of our group, call him Guru Dave, he's the real deal. Like, he makes his own flour. Like, he grows cassava to make his own flour. Like literally, like, he's like the real deal. Like, he grows food to actually survive. Where I grow food for fun, just to teach people stuff.
So he's been a mentor to you through this whole process.
A little bit. If there's like little questions I have, I'll ask him stuff. But most of the stuff that I've learned, I've kind of learned it through trial and error, or through watching videos, or TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. Or visiting people's gardens. Pick up things here or there. So there's just so many resources out there. Facebook groups. There's so many resources out there to learn things.
What is your long-term goal with this business? Where do you see it in the next couple of years? I'll say 3 to 5 years.
Ideally, my dream was to create a brand, to basically become the Nike of gardening. Whereas when you think of, something you're going to put on to go garden, you think permaculture life. Same when you think you're going to play basketball, you think I can get my Nikes or something like that. So that's kind of what we want to be, is the brand that people associate with garden. We want to be an aspirational brand. A brand where even people that don't garden, but they want to garden, hey, I'm permaculture life,
Love it, man. Yeah, I see the social media, and I would definitely say my wife has been telling me, like, I've grown plants, right? You see a couple of plants here, and this is only a little bit of what I have. I got maybe a total of 40, and she says, listen, it seems like you're doing good with these plants. You need to start building grown crops. And I'm like, I can't do it. But then I see what you're doing, and I'm seeing the videos, and I'm like, I can do it. All I got to do is watch Andre the Farmer.
100% you can do it. 100% you can do it. There's no doubt in my mind you can do it.
No, that is the next goal, man. I'm trying to build the planters now. I actually got an avocado that is growing really nice as well. I think that's my first thing that I have. I was growing to some tomatoes, but some bugs got to it. I didn't even know that was a thing. They just really just took over my whole tomato plant. So now I got to figure out how to stop them from taking over my crops. But it is pretty dope to really see what you're doing, man. At one point, seeing that you're growing rice, like, how was that for you? Was it a success? Are you going back through it?
Rice was a failure. So this year I decided to go rice, and I really wanted to have it in a really moist environment. Even though I was going like an uplands rice, the highlands rice that didn't need to be submerged, I wanted it to stay really moist. So I was putting the pots in the lake. But what I did was I used a lot of soil. It was in the spring. I used a lot of soil from close to the lake that was just like muck, like real muddy soil.
Yeah.
But it had a lot of weed seeds in it. So next year I'm going to do the rice again, but I'm going to use all like purchased soil to go into the pot.
Okay.
Because I ended up putting a lot of weed in there. So there is rice growing, but there's just so much weed in there. It's hard to even really separate the rice.
That's crazy, man. So that's cool. We're talking about Andre the Farmer, right? But then there's another side, and it's really where I met you, and it was being an orthodontist. And to kind of give a backstory on how I met you was I was working at a certain location, and you would walk in to the restaurant. But I would also see your billboards all over the place. So finally being able to actually see the face of the brand was like, oh, man, this is a man of color, man. And not only is it a man of color, it's a man at that doing his thing. Billboards throughout the city. Then I was happened to be working by high school. You done took over the whole high school baseball field. So was that always a dream of yours to actually be an orthodontist?
No. You know what? Growing up, it was not easy. I grew up in the suburbs in Canada. My dad was a bit of a pioneer in terms of moving where he moved. Years later, I remember him saying, actually one of his friends told me that he's told him that he doesn't think I would have ever become an orthodontist if he had stayed in the city in Toronto. And that was part of why he moved out to where he moved. But it was tough growing up. There was a lot of racism. And even from the teachers, like you really felt like looking back on it, I can look back and say, wow, that was some messed up stuff that they did to me as a kid. And it really left me with a bit of an inferiority complex. I really never thought I was smart enough, or I never thought I was going to go to university, like when I was in high school. That wasn't a thing. But I played basketball, and I got into a good university because of the basketball. So, I kind of was still focused on basketball when I did go to university. And it wasn't until probably my second year of university that I really started to have some confidence and realized that I wasn't a dummy, that I could figure some stuff out. And then I kind of focused a little bit more on school at that point. I wanted to be a biology teacher, but even then, I didn't really have the confidence to think that I could be a doctor. Like that was not something that was in the realm of possibilities for me. To the point where I had a friend, and she wanted to be a psychologist, and the deal that I made with her was, if you are a psychologist, let me be your receptionist. That was sort of my aspirational goal, was to be the receptionist of my friend if she became a psychologist.
How crazy, how little you thought and how big you really are right now, man. How the orthodontist, how that really come about? What made you think, this is the field I'm going into?
You know, once I was sort of a little more focused on school, and I wanted to be a biology teacher. The problem was, in Canada at the time, teachers college was really hard to get into. And I had an uncle who had graduated from dental school, him and his daughter, at Howard University in Washington, D.C. And I was in Canada. I didn't really know my uncle. Like, I couldn't have picked him out of a lineup. He was actually my father's uncle. He was my great uncle. So my dad said, hey, he can probably get you in or whatever. So we applied. I got in. I was probably the last one that got in. I was probably at the very end of the list there. But then I guess it was kind of a legacy thing, But then after the first couple exams, I started doing really well. And I ended up finishing #1 in my class all 4 years, which was good because that gave me a scholarship. And my parents had saved up money to pay for the first year of school. Actually, took out loans to pay for the first year of school, but they didn't have a plan for the second year. So it was very fortunate that I got those scholarships.
Man, how many years in total does it take to actually be an orthodontist?
Well, you do your 4 years of university or college, and then you do 4 years of dental school, and then you do 2 or 3 years of an orthodontic residency. So 10 years, basically.
You were invested. There was no going back. This is what you were going to have to do for life.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I got to dental school, you get there and everyone's flexing, everyone's telling you how they're this and they're that, and they've done this, they've done that. I'm thinking, geez, I barely got in here. So I was like terrified. I thought I was definitely flunking out. I had excuses made up for why I'm back in Canada and why dental school didn't work out. I didn't really want to do it and all this stuff. And just after the first exam, I was like, whoa, wait a minute here. I got the highest grade in the class. I was like, I've never experienced that before. So I was like, wait a minute. Maybe I can do this stuff.
Yeah, man. And orthodontist looks like it obviously changed your life, right? You end up here in the States, you go to school, you become an orthodontist, but then you also own now 3 different offices. Was that a goal of yours to have your own practice? Like, what was the goal after you actually left school to become an orthodontist?
Well, when I left school originally after my orthodontic residency, I didn't have a green card. I was on a work visa, an H-1B visa. So it took 6 years for me to get a green card. And during that time, I thought, maybe I'll own a practice, maybe not. I am not one of those people who feels they have to own something. Sometimes having a job is a pretty good deal,
Yeah.
and not every ownership of a business means you're doing well. Like, people own businesses that are losing money. And when you own a business, one thing you have to understand is everybody gets paid before you, right? So you're the last one that gets paid. And even as an orthodontist, there are some months where I'm working for free. If it's a month where we don't have a huge collections, yeah, that month, I'm working for free. I might even be paying money to work that month, But then if it's a good month, then things go well. But, so it's not all that's meant to be. And I saw my dad, he had his own business. He was a dental technician. Like, he made dentures and false teeth. And I saw him struggle. I saw, him go months without pay and things like that. So, and everyone thought because he had his own business that he was rich. But that's not the way it works. So, sometimes if you got a good job, that might not be a bad thing.
Yeah, you don't have to deal with the stress, and I love that you said that sometimes because people think you got a business that you seem rich. I've had family when I've had my businesses where it says, "Hey, can I borrow some money?" I'm like, "I ain't got no money." What do you mean you got a business? Yeah, that business has bills. Like, I got my own home, got bills. I got my business that got bills.
Yeah.
People don't see that, man. It takes a lot of hard work, and in your case, you got 3 offices. Where do you find the time to have 3 offices to do Andre the Farmer? And I'm pretty sure there's other things that we're not talking about right now.
Well, I don't want to make it seem like I'm working that hard, because I really don't work that hard. Okay.
Not
There's
now.
lots of hours in a day. So, for example, like today, this morning, got up, had to go to the office and do some meetings or things like that. Then I came home, I worked in the garden all morning. Um, I'm doing this now. Later today, I got my Spanish lesson. I've also got a deer that I killed a deer on Monday night. I went hunting in Gainesville, and I got a deer I got to process in the garage today. Like there's a lot of hours in a day. I only work 3 days a week, so I have associates at the offices too. So my 3 days a week is not. Trust me, I'm not working that hard. It's not. Yeah,
But
my life is not that
I
hectic.
don't want people to think that you don't work hard, that you weren't working hard. You worked hard to get where you're at, right? There's a
All right.
process. I don't want people
Yeah,
to
you
think
know
that
what?
this isn't going to happen.
I'll tell you what. I believe in working smarter, not harder. And I'll tell you what, even when I was working hard, I wasn't working that hard. Okay. Like the hard work really came from the schooling, right? So the 10 years of school that I did, that was in order for me not to have to work hard the rest of my life, right? You know, I once heard an orthodontist tell me, we don't get paid for what we do. We get paid for what we could do if we had to. Right? So on a day-to-day basis, the stuff I do, pretty much a lot of people could be trained to do that very easily. But when things don't go according to plan, that's when all that training is what I'm there for.
Got it. Got it. Okay. 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 So I would say, how important is being a good leader in what you're doing as well? Because you're not just really an orthodontist. You have to be a leader to lead the team to be able to do the work that they're doing, right? Without you being there. How important was it to learn leadership as well? And is that something that you had to learn throughout the years, or is something that schools taught you? How did you learn the leadership to go ahead and be able to do what you're doing?
I think it's definitely something you have to learn on your own. You can emulate other leaders and things like that. But I remember when I came here, we had three doctors that were the doctors that owned like 10 offices, and I worked in three of them, or four. I worked in four of them, and I saw a lot of different leadership styles. From the angry yeller who's like a maniac and everyone's afraid of, to the guy who everyone just walks over, to the other guy. It was like a lot of different things, right?
Yeah.
But and that's one of the things I worried about a lot. I was like, hey, when it's my turn to step up, am I going to be able to step up? Like, I'm not a yeller. I'm not an angry guy. Like, how are people going to respect me and listen to what I tell them to do? And what I've found is that if you treat your staff or your employees well, and you do what you say you're going to do, then they will go to bat for you. And if you have employees that are going to bat for you, that are invested in you, like I have employees that are, more loyal to me than I am to myself. So I never worry about them, cheating me or stealing or doing anything. I just have like a great team, and that's the greatest part. I think that's what makes you a good leader, is picking the right people. If you pick the right people, anybody can be a great leader if you have a great team.
Yep. No, I agree. That's really important that you say that. You have to have a good people, but you have to kind of go through bad people. It's like a relationship, right? You have to go through a relationship. You got to find those that are going to work for you, because not everyone works for you. And a lot of
Right.
times I have that issue with other, business entrepreneur people that I say, listen, man, you have to let go. You can't do everything, but you have to find the people. And people always say, well, it's kind of hard for someone to think like me. Well, you train them to think like you and to do what you do. But if you don't go out there and find the right one, the same way
Right.
that you found a wife or girlfriend, like you're going to be in the same situation. You're not going to be able to grow. So I love that you said that. And it looks like that's why you've been able to grow 3 different businesses, creating this new Andre the Farmer TikTok page. Are you doing that completely still social media by yourself, or is there someone now engaged in you every day?
Just me. I just filmed the video today. I put the camera in the tripod that I have, and I'm up on a ladder cutting a banana flower off. I get down, the phone's off. I've already
Oh
cut the
my
flower
God.
off. I'm like, what? I'm like, because I look at the video, and right before I cut the flower, the video stops. I'm like, great.
No way. No
And you
way.
can't redo that kind of thing. So it is what it is.
Yeah, it is
So
what
it's
it is,
just
man.
me. Just
Keep
me and the
going.
phone. I can't even get someone to hold the phone for
Well,
me.
I love it, man. You've been able to really build a lot from kind of nothing, right? It's just you doing it, loving it, and being patient. What are some of the, I would say, tips and tricks you tell someone that wants to either be an orthodontist or maybe want to start their own social media platform? You've been successful at both of them. What are some tips and tricks that you can provide somebody?
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what. I have a dental TikTok and a dental Instagram as well. On my dental TikTok, I have the studying technique that I developed in order to be successful. You can go there and you can find it, or I can. You have a minute, I can tell you about it. But
Yeah.
that's basically you have to do the schooling, right? So that's the schooling part. And if you're not good at schools or test taking is probably one of the most important skills you're going to have, because you're going to need to take tests just to get into dental school. You're going to need to take tests while you're in dental school. You're going to take tests to get into ortho programs. You're going to need to take tests to take your license. Like, there's so many tests that you're going to have to take. And if you're not a good test taker, it doesn't matter what you know. Like, I finished number one in my class, not just because I knew more stuff than other people. Probably at least half of the reason why is because I could take tests better than the rest of the people. And that's a skill. It's a talent, taking a test, taking a standardized or multiple choice test. And there's got to be, resources online. And I don't think people spend enough time learning how to take tests as opposed to just studying material.
I love that you say that because as an instructor, I see a lot of people that they're good. I know they know the content or that, they know the information that's provided, but they get so nervous and so anxious when it comes to the test that they'll bomb the test. And I'm like, but you knew you were the best one in the class. So I like that you said that. That is really important for those that, are good at what they do, but not good at test taking. You might want, that's a good tip. That's actually a really, really good tip that you provided there.
And you got to look at the test. That's game day, right? Like, that should be the most fun day of all, because you practice. You got to practice all week. Practice is the boring part. That's the part that sucks. The game is the fun part. So for me, when I got into an exam, that was game day. I'm ready. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I can't wait. Let me see what you're going to come up with, teacher. I'm ready.
Man. That's why you're so good, man. Because when it came down to really play, you were down to really play. Like, I did all the work already. Let's go ahead and do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You know what? I would mess with my classmates by leaving the exam room at a ridiculously early time. Like, I would try to just whip through it just so I could leave in like 10 minutes and just freak people out. That's how much fun it was.
And that's also hard, man, because when people start to see others leave, and I always say the same thing, just because you see the person next to you leave, don't get stressed out. You don't know if that person passed or failed. All right. You have this amount of time. Take all the time that you need to. Man, I've seen some bad test takers and I've also seen some good test takers, but I've seen people leave in 10 minutes and bomb the whole test. You know what I mean? So you have to be a good test
at this
taker,
point, because in dental school, it's the same classmates the whole way through, right? So at some point, everybody knows who's who, right? Yeah. So they know if I got up in 10 minutes, they know the test is done, right? Yeah. But, and my study, let me just briefly tell you the studying technique, okay? Because one of the problems too is too much of it is digital nowadays, right? You have to write stuff down. So if you're getting your notes on a computer or a laptop or iPad, you got to cut that out. You got to do it on pen and paper, because that's what's going to lock it into your brain, right? So here's the first thing I do. One, I never write down anything that is not testable. If it's not a testable piece of information, it does not need to be in your notes, all right? Two, if it's something that you already know, it should never go into your notes, right? Because you want to avoid clutter. That's the thing. You want to have as little notes as possible. So already I'm going to have less notes than everybody else, because I only write things I don't know, and I only write things that are testable into my notes. And you will develop a feel for what's testable and what's not over time. Once you have your notes and you've written it all out, you go through your notes, you take a black marker and you cross out everything that you now know, because you've heard the lecture, you've written it down. So there's a lot of that stuff that's in your brain now. You mark that out with a black marker. Now, whatever's left, you write that out on another sheet of paper. And now you've concentrated that down to just the stuff you had difficulty remembering. So now you've written this stuff out twice. You're going to do the same thing, black marker, until you get down to one page of notes, single side. And that's what you're going to study from. Now imagine if you only have to look at that as opposed to a whole textbook or a whole pack of notes. You're going to ace the exam because you know everything else. Because people love confirmation bias. They love to be reassured that they're smart, right? So when you're studying with your friends, you say, all right, give me the list of 5 things that blah, blah, blah. Because you want that list because you know that list, right? So you're going to say the answers and you feel good about yourself, right? But you should never be looking at that list. You already know that. So if you only have the things you have difficulty with, when you see that on a multiple choice exam, it's a piece of cake. It's super easy. You'll ace it. I tell people all the time, you will ace every exam you take if you
That's
use that
game.
method.
I wish I would have known this years ago, man. For me, I'm okay. Like I wouldn't say I was a bad test taker, but I'm the type of person that probably doesn't take notes and go back and read my notes. But I love the way that you just kind of put that together. I think it makes complete sense, right? So for
Good.
those that are listening, if you are a bad test taker, he literally is giving you steps on how to become a better test taker, right?
Whoa,
So
whoa,
there's
whoa,
no
whoa, hold on, hold
excuses.
on, hold on, hold on. That's not the test taking part. That's the preparation for it.
Oh,
That give you
preparation.
the
Okay.
information. Now the test taking is a separate skill because you have to understand what a multiple choice question is trying to achieve. So that's a separate skill that you have to get. But this will help you make your test a lot easier.
Yeah, man. Listen, you've definitely done your work, man. You can definitely tell that you've been at doing a lot of tests over the years of being an orthodontist, right?
You go to school for 12 years after high school or whatever it was I went, you'll
You'll
you'll learn
learn.
how to take some tests eventually,
All right,
or
I
you
love it. I
will.
love that tip and trick that we talk about for being for those that want to go into the orthodontist, and there's a lot of tests involved. But how about those that want to create a social media but are too afraid to start because of whatever reason?
Well, I would say start it on TikTok. You're going to accumulate followers much faster on TikTok than any other platform. Um, you know, just be yourself. And you know, if yourself is not interesting enough for people to want to pay attention, then maybe social media isn't for you, right? Because it's hard to fake it and be something else. That's if you want to have a person-driven TikTok. Now, there are a lot of people who have TikToks that are just driven from providing clips from other places that are interesting for people to view in one place. And that's a way that some people have, 1 million followers because they always have really cool videos on their page without them having to interact or talk in the videos.
Love it. I do have another question for those that mentioned a little bit earlier about, it's okay to go get a 9 to 5. Not everyone wants to start the entrepreneurship. So if what is the difference between going and creating your own practice and then going corporate? Why did you choose private versus corporate?
Well, if you're going corporate, like to start out, you're gonna go in and be an employee, which is perfectly fine, right? You can make a good living and have very little responsibility. And for some people, that's the path that they want. They want less responsibility as opposed to having to deal with everything. For me, the practice that I sort of bought into was sort of somewhere a bit of a hybrid where they had a corporate element, where they had a company that did a lot of their processing and things like that. So I didn't have to do a lot of the behind the scenes work that a normal practice owner would have to do. Eventually, we weaned ourselves off of them and we had enough staff to do those things. But sometimes people just want to work. They don't want to run a business. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
And
It's
do you,
not for everybody.
and you're still a private business, is that correct?
Mostly.
When you say mostly, are you converting?
We are in the process of making some changes right now. That's all I can say.
Oh man, how many years have you been doing this now?
21 years. So my goal was originally to do it for 25 years. I think I'll probably be doing it for about 25, 26 years. And then hopefully I can retire and do some other things.
What are some goals that you have in mind after retirement? Because I know you're just not going to retire and just not do anything. What are some of those goals that you have?
Well, right now we are building a house in Mexico. So I plan on retiring in Mexico.
Beautiful.
Um, yeah, so that's why I'm working on my Spanish so I can communicate with the people very
I was
well.
going to ask that. That must be why you had the Spanish class after this interview, is because you
Exactly,
got to
exactly.
get ready.
Yeah, so I was just down there this weekend, and I had to deal with a lot of contractors and things like that didn't speak any English. So I'm not at the point now where I can get by. So that's my. I kind of want to run a fishing charter business down in Mexico. That's one of my plans, one of my goals when I get down there.
Oh, why Mexico? Why did you choose Mexico?
A lot of reasons. The cost of living is less expensive. Playa del Carmen is super safe. They have first world hospitals down there. The weather's always beautiful. The people are super nice. It's easy to get to. I have a good friend who's been down there for 10 years. So yeah, there's just the stars just
A lot
aligned.
of reasons. A lot of reasons.
Mexico just was the ideal place.
Man, that's crazy to know that your time is as a orthodontist is coming to an end, but Andre the Farmer is not coming
I
to
don't
an end. Will you still be doing farming out of Mexico?
Yes, I will be doing a little bit. But I don't have a lot of land down there, so it will be an abbreviated garden. But I'll be able to grow some of the tropical trees that I can't grow here in Orlando. So that'll be pretty cool.
Love it, man. I love it. This is a pretty cool interview, man, to know where you started from and where you're at and where you're still going, man. Like all these years, some people are waiting for that time where they don't have to do anything and they just retire. But your goal is like, nah, man. Like I as long as I'm breathing, I'm doing something, right? So that's exactly where you're at. Where do you find the time? Such
Listen,
a it looks like a busy schedule. You're talking about, orthodontist, and I know you mentioned that you're not always working there. You only do it 3 days a week, but you're also doing a lot of the farming. You're talking about hunting. You're talking about speaking Spanish or learning Spanish, I must say. Where do you find the time? Is it that you're writing these things down? A lot of people always say they don't have time. That's what I hear all the time. I don't have time. But
I
how do
don't
you find the
understand
time?
that. I meet people that have zero hobbies and they say they don't have any time. I'm like, what? Like I work, I had kids, I got a wife, I play golf, I fish, I hunt, I got my garden, which itself is almost a full-time job. Um, and I watch a lot of TV. I watch way more TV than people would think that I watch. Like there's just a lot of hours in a day. I don't know why. I feel like we all got the same amount of hours. I don't know why everybody's not using them.
A lot of excuses being made. I hear it all the time. It kind of irks my nerves when people it's like, well, I don't, I can't do this because of this. And I'm like, that's an excuse. You have the time. If you find the time, the gym. I can't go to the gym because there's no time. No, you don't want to go to the gym because you don't want to go to the gym. Right?
Yeah,
That's exactly why you don't want to go
that's
to
me. I don't
the
want to go to gym. I just don't want to go to gym. But um, yeah, yeah,
gym.
but yeah, there's a lot of hours in a day. A lot of hours in a day.
Good, good. So you just find the time, man. You just kind of go with the flow. Nothing really that you're writing down. There's no agenda that you're following. Whatever you feel like it is what you're kind of going through on the
Yeah,
day-to-day
yeah.
basis.
Like after this, I'm going to go in the garage and process some deer. If it's not dark, I might go back outside and work in the garden a little bit. Spanish lesson at 6, then dinner, then watch TV.
Nice, man. What are some of your goals that you have? Let's say, just so we can kind of go back, or you even can go back and watch this video and say, man, I spoke this into existence and I did it. 5 years from now, what are some of the goals that you have for yourself?
Boy, 5 years from now, I want to be at a point where I don't have to work if I don't want to work. Um, and I want to be spending a lot of time in Mexico and hopefully have a boat down there and have a charter boat business, where I'm sort of doing a business as a hobby where, if I make a little cash on the side here, yeah, that's great, but I'm not dependent on it. And I'm, taking people out to go fishing and having a good time, meeting new people. Yeah, that's what I want.
Who would ever thought this person that I met that I felt was a very quiet person is talking about creating a whole business where he's going to take people fishing and communicating and TikTok. That is amazing to know. And that's why you can never judge a book by its cover because you don't know. We spoke about earlier on how people have a story and you don't know what that story is, right? You think you know someone until you really sit down and have that conversation. That's what I love here about Know Your Worth TV, that we have a conversation and we get to know about each other. In reality, we're all the same people. We all have a story, but it's what you do with that story and how you overcome it and how you sometimes put some negative into your life to fuel you for positive. So I definitely appreciate your time. I ask you one more question before we log off, and it's everyone's question: is what is your know your worth moment that allows you to live your life to the fullest capacity?
I think my moment probably came really early. Um, I think when I was in university, my first year of university, I had a girlfriend, and she was the one who sort of made me consider that maybe I was more than just a basketball player. maybe I had more to offer than that. And that was sort of my, I think, know my worth sort of moment right
Love it. Yeah, love to hear it, man. And if you guys want to go ahead and tap into Andre the Former on all social media platforms, this is the social media down below. Andre the Former. You can definitely see a lot of on his TikTok. Is that your most active platform? Would you say is your TikTok?
No, my TikTok and my Instagram and my YouTube, they're all pretty equally active. I also have a Facebook group. It's called Permaculture Life. You can see what we're doing on there as well.
Is that a website as well, Permaculture Life?
Yes, I do have a website, permaculturelife.com. If you're interested in any of the permaculture life gear, you can get on the website. There's also a chat feature on there that goes directly to my cell phone if you have any questions.
Love it, man. And do you have any advice for anyone that wants to be an entrepreneur and do what it is that Andre the Farmer is doing, building businesses one day at a time before we head off?
Boy, that's tough, but I'll tell you, the number one trait of successful people is not intelligence. It's not, wealth or anything. It's persistence. It's persistence. So, if you want something, you have to be persistent and you have to continually put that effort in.
Are you telling me even when it doesn't feel right, I should continue?
Well, you use your judgment, right? But just because something's not successful at first doesn't mean that it can't be successful.
Yeah.
So,
Love it.
be
I love it.
persistent.
A lot of people give up too early. So I wanted you to clarify that for those that are watching and thinking, man, should I give up? If you love what you're doing and it's a passion, keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Failure is sort of a trait of success.
Yep. I agree. You learn from every time you fail. It's a lesson learned. I love it. Every time that you fail, it's really a lesson. Find out what that lesson is and implement it on the next time, the next go around, the next business venture, the next business, partnership that you may have. So I love that you say that is continue to learn from your failures. A lot of people just fail and never get back up and just live with resentment, I must say. But Andre, thank you so much for your time. And this has been phenomenal. If you guys are still watching here, make sure that you guys subscribe to the channel. Go check out Andre the Farmer on all social media platforms and also permaculturelife.com to see what it is that he's actually providing, the Nike of the gardening. I'm going to go ahead and say that from now on. But Andre the Farmer, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for those that are watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.